Well, people are streaming in. Good morning, Crossroads Nation. My name is 𝙔𝙤𝙪𝙧, and I'm a financial advisor with 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙧 Financial, and going to be your host this morning. We are so thrilled that you have joined us for a fantastic morning that we have got in store for you. So as people continue to stream in, wow, the numbers are really flooding in. Awesome. Glad people have got a cup of coffee and are ready for a wonderful morning. We've got a lot of really great content in store for you this morning. And we're going to start out first. I'm going to offer a word from the Bible. And then we're going to hear a testimony from somebody that provided a testimony, Becky Brister, a while back. And it was just a wonderful message. She serves as our soul pastor here at Crossroads. And then we're going to hear from Dale Henry. Many of you, if you've been around Crossroads at all, are probably familiar with that name. Dale's a great guy and has a wonderful message always. So that will be good. But I'd like to start by talking about looking at things one day at a time. And I'll date myself, but for those of you that remember kind of a quirky sitcom back in the 70s called by that name, One Day at a Time. Man, I'm old. I'm sure there's probably nobody on here. In fact, if there is anybody on here that remembers that show One Day at a Time, would you put it in chat just so I don't feel quite so alone here, thinking that I'm probably the only one that remembers that. But either way, whether you remember it or not, one day at a time is, other than a phrase, is really a good way to look at your job transition. Now, I struggled with that mindset because I like being in control. Anybody else like that? Like being in control? Well, I do. And I like kind of having everything organized, and not only organized, but organized my way, right? The way I want it done and the way I see things, the way they should be. And I found that my job transition was not unfolding. Like I had it figured out. I was going to land quickly and it was going to be no big deal and blah, blah, blah. Well, it didn't unfold that way. It took a long time, and I felt rudderless and directionless. And then I started questioning myself, and it was kind of a mess when I was just relying on me. And I find that is not an unusual thing in life when I just rely on myself. But one thing I found about job transition is, even though the process can sometimes not be really fun, there can be portions of it that are really tough. But I have certainly found, again, like I found in life, that a lot of times God uses challenges and tough parts of life as wonderful teaching moments for me. And I've needed a lot of them in my life, believe me. But this was certainly one. He certainly taught me that there was a real joy in really focusing on living one day at a time. And I found that as I really focused on that, on really focusing on one day at a time, focusing on the joys of each day, focusing on the blessings of each day, and really focusing on that each day, it really made a huge difference. And it's something that I still do to this day, and I hope to do till the day I die, because it really reframes when I can get into a negative mood or focus on negative things or what isn't right or what I don't like. I really kind of encourage myself to just look at one day at a time and the blessings of each day. And it really kind of frees me up from a burden that I carried for many years when I tried to control everything and really didn't need to. I'd reference you to Matthew 6:9-13, where we find the Lord's Prayer. And if you would say it with me, but pay particular attention to one part of it, but join me, will you? As we start, I lost my place here. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now here's the big part, right? Give us this day our daily bread, not weekly, monthly, yearly, daily bread, right? Give us our daily bread, And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Our daily bread. So focus on things daily. Take it one day at a time. And whether it's in job transition or life, I think you will find when you turn it over to Lord, his plan is better than you can imagine, and it will go smoother than you could imagine. So that is my prayer for you. Now, I would like to bring on 𝙔𝙤𝙪𝙧 𝙇𝙞𝙛𝙚, who, as I mentioned, is our soul pastor here at Crossroads, has a wonderful message about her journey and kind of her efforts in that part of helping Crossroads. And I think you will find it helpful and inspiring as I did. So I'll turn it over to Becky, and then we'll come back and bring on Dale. Becky.
This is a little hard this morning. I came up with something yesterday to make it sound this way, but I want to be able to share a little bit about what I went through in the process of job search. And then, so I've got just a little kind of outline here. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Christ and what he meant to me and how that worked in and still does through that transition. And then I'm going to give you a couple of hopefully some things that might help you. And as one of those, as Harry has said, is soul care. So back in 2019, July of 2019, I was laid off from a job that I had for 13 years. And 13 years prior to that, I was laid off from a different job. So I had a little experience in that, but a lot of things had changed in 13 years on how to look for a job. And so it was harder than I thought it was going to be. I had high expectations that I was just going to apply for another job and I would get one. And I had even started to do that before I'd gotten laid off because I had realized it wasn't a job that was going to work for me going forward. So I'd started to do that, but still once the actual layoff happened, which was unexpected, life took some major turns, and my emotions and my heart made some hard turns as well. And so that was something that I had to learn how to deal with and expect. I mean, I like I said, I had decided that it was not going to be, I mean, I just do what I have to do, right? My mother's words ring loudly in my ears. Put yourself up by the bootstraps and go do it. And so I did that. Unfortunately, March of that next year, as I was working through those just do it kind of scenarios, that's when COVID hit. And so that had a whole different push on my life. And my husband is self-employed too. So we spent a fair amount of that time just figuring out how to live without an employer to handle some of those other insurance kind of situations and things like that. And so we made our way through that. COVID had effects on his business. It had effects on our personal life. My mother was diagnosed with cancer and passed away in July of that year as well. So I spent some time working with her in hospice. And when I came out of that in August of 2020, I reached back out to Harry because I found in the interim before COVID, I had tried every networking group that I could find in the Southwest, Southeast Metro. And Crossroads was the one that really fit for me. And I could feel that's someplace where I felt like I could be helped and maybe I could help. So I reached back out to Harry and we talked about what it might be that I could help with them. And I found that process of helping others to really help me as well. And so I spent a fair amount of that time trying to decide exactly what I wanted to do. I met some awesome people from Crossroads and across the state and outside of the state, and they all had really good information that they would help me with. Maybe you can do this. I rewrote my resume, as you probably guys know, umpteen times and over again. And I did all of those things, trying to hit that sweet spot. And this is where I realized through Christ in his word and the army of people that he sent to me that I needed to live in the moment. And so one of the things that I'd like to kind of maybe encourage you guys to do is spend some time, as Harry has said, in the wisdom books of the Bible, if you can. Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything. And just really internalize that, try to think through that, and so that you can live in the moment, take advantage of what God has given you now, even the suffering, walk through that, and keep your eyes open for his guiding in that. I also, during that time, it was very difficult for me to really concentrate and sit down and read. I'm dyslexic, and so all of those things were playing into it. I found if you're interested, there's an app out there called Through the Word that does the reading for you and has a little commentary with it too. And so that's something that maybe might be helpful. I play it during, even now, while I get up and get dressed, something that can go and I can soak in and help me in the morning. So I would just really encourage you to look for those areas where it works for you, because everything doesn't work the same. Just as you'll hear with Melanie later on, it's not a one size fits all, because everybody has different qualifications, different needs, different jobs that they're looking for. There certainly is lots of them out there now. And when I first started to look in 2019, they were close to full employment, and there was supposedly 1 or 2 jobs for everyone that was looking for a job, but for whatever reason that didn't really help me, since I couldn't find one. That was just it just depressed me even more, because clearly I wasn't one of them. But that I learned to take that as that I just hadn't found the right one yet. God was waiting to give me the right job. And where that came to for me was consulting. And so after the years of work in the ERP world, I have transitioned into a full-time consultant and I work with my husband in our own business. And for me, business development wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I have connected with a couple, 2 or 3 recruiters, recruiting firms that really fit who I am and what I do. And God has blessed all of that. I'm currently in a contract, and I know from what God has taught me that I can only look to today and trust Him for all the rest. And so I would encourage you to work on that. Certainly not easy. Certainly not something I've got down pat, and I never worry and I never am concerned. We just came past tax day, right? So I had to put aside those situations. But those are some things in my path that I have walked through, and that I'm where I'm at now. One of the things that Harry mentioned and that I mentioned is soul care. And I would encourage you as well, depending on how long, what you're doing and what time you have. But if you can find a spot where you can help somebody else, it really helps in the process. Both the process of finding something because you are out talking to people, but also in the process of not having something. So find the opportunity and what it might be. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Maybe it's just helping. Like, there was a spot in my search where it came really clearly that my job was to help my mother. That was my job. And so, maybe there's some other, maybe there's something like that you can do while you're looking. And so, but find some purpose in your life in this time. So I want to also say just a little bit about soul care. As I said, Harry and I got together and we kind of worked out what that would be. What I found when I walked back then, when you went to these kind of classes, you walked into a room full of people. And at that time, there was probably 50 or 60 people in this room. And I could see, and I don't know if it was just a reflection of what was in my eyes, but I could see a lot of faces of deer in headlights that were people who were just unsure of what the future was. And this was not where they wanted to be or how they wanted to make their next steps into the future. And so with talking to Harry, I said, I just feel like I really want to be able to come alongside people and give them a safe spot. When and you probably feel this, when you're looking for a job, you feel like you have to be on all the time. You have to have the right answers. You have to have the right attitude. You have to have all of your papers in order. You have all those things that you need to do, and you need to make sure that they change all the time. And I mean, there's just lots of pressures on you. And what I wanted to do was offer to women that I do, but other men, with men too, and there has been people that have reached out, an opportunity where they can have a safe space to talk with somebody about the parts that aren't fun, the roller coaster, the grief that comes from losing the job that you had, the uncertainty of the future and how that's going to impact your life in the future, and how do I change from where I'm at now to where I'm going next. And I don't have answers. I just have an ear. I'm not a therapist, but I am somebody that can give a spot where you can hear yourself and work through your own. I also have opportunity. I pray for everybody that I work with, and we have opportunity for prayer during it if that's something that you would desire. Over the last almost 2 years now, I've worked with about 10 people, some of them for longer than others. Again, depending on what the journey is, there was, in the beginning, it was 6 and 8 months, depending how long they took them for them to find a job and get settled in. And then there's some that are, done in 2 weeks or whatever. But I just want to invite everybody to the opportunity. If you feel like you have the need, please reach out to Harry, and we can make sure that we can arrange something so that you have that opportunity. I have found that all of the people that I've talked to have found it very helpful. But it's not for everybody. But if you think that's something for you, please do reach out.
Great. Thanks, Becky. What a great message. And she does so many wonderful things through the soul care ministry. And so you never know where your job transition may lead. Thank you, Mary Jo, for mentioning and a number of others that you remembered one day at a time. That makes me feel better. Appreciate that. And just in that regard, as Dale starts his presentation, if you have any questions at all you have to do is type them into the chat box, and we will relay them to Dale, and he will answer them. So it's a great opportunity to have an expert address issues that are specific to you. So don't hesitate to type your questions into chat. Also, if there are going to be some slides that come up that have a ton of information on them, and I know I try to take notes and I just can't keep up. So keep in mind that you can just take a screenshot of those slides, and this presentation will be captured and on our YouTube channel. And I'll talk more about that later, because after Dale's done, I will go through and talk about many, many resources that Minnesota Crossroads has for you in your job transition. Great resources that will be a huge, huge help. So that will be after Dale will go through lots of great stuff that we have for you. But before and without any further delay, as I mentioned, Dale Henry is very well known to Minnesota Crossroads, and is an author, a speaker, a coach. He's done many, many, many things. He's got a great message, a number of messages. I've heard Dale a number of times, always enjoyed. And this is a new message that I have not heard. And so I'm really excited to see what he has to say. He always has such unique insights. And so we are in for a treat. Dale's going to go over some great stuff. And again, any questions, just pop them in chat and we'll be sure to answer them. But we are excited to hear what he has to say. So I will turn it over to Mr. Dale Henry. Good morning, Dale.
Good morning, Skip. Thanks so much. Hey, and I don't know, are people able to come off mute themselves and just talk versus using chat, or do they need to go through chat or be monitored or something?
I think so. I'm not sure. Harry, is that, can they?
Yeah, unfortunately, just through chat.
Oh, okay.
Just chat.
I love
All
that
right.
voice
So
from the wilderness. You never, you
Oh,
don't
I know.
see Harry, you just hear the voice.
Harry just looms. I mean, he's out there somewhere. So, so chat only. If you have questions, put them in chat and we'll answer them.
Darn it. I love when they can talk. Okay, so I'm going to work off of slides, and I do that only to keep myself on track, because otherwise I will go off into the weeds and have different thoughts. So we want to keep you focused. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you're here. I hope this is valuable for you. And candidly, with your questions, I will cover anything that you care about that I can be helpful on. So we're going to talk about finding purpose in your work. But if there are any questions on any topics that any of us can help with, that's the most important thing, because we're all here for you and to help you through your transition. So want to start out, and there's a couple different things here. If people know me, Skip asked how to introduce me, and I didn't help him at all. I just said I'm a guy. I do coaching, I do consulting, I do a bunch of training for creative entrepreneurs right now, honestly. But I certainly, with a lot of my coaching clients, they are either people who are in corporate looking for other more meaningful work, or they're transitioning in the entrepreneurial world. That tends to be an audience that I work with. But ultimately, the idea of purpose or meaningful work or all of that comes up sooner or later in the conversations and in the work we do together. So I asked Harry if I could share this with you. It's kind of a little bit of hodgepodge. I like to have things really well connected, and this one isn't perfectly designed that way, so I apologize in advance. But there's a few different things, and I realized the number one thing that I do not have in this deck, so I want to talk about it first, is I believe that our thinking drives our behavior that determines our results, the conditions, circumstances, and outcomes in our lives. So if we want to change our situation, if we want to change our results, we have to change our thinking. That's just the way the world works. So my intention today is to give you some tools and techniques. And as Skipper Harry said, please feel very free to do screen captures, copy any of the slide, any of this information. Don't worry about that. I want you to have it. But some of them are things that you're going to take away and work on. So I give you a bunch of instructions or a bunch of the content on the screen. I wouldn't normally do it this way, but so feel free to grab that stuff. Also put in the chat if you need more time. I will try to tell you when the screen is done building, because I like to use builds in transition. So I'll tell you when it's ready to be captured. So go ahead and do that. But again, everything we do this morning is for you. So please let us help you and give us feedback on that. To change your thinking, I want to give you some thoughts or some frameworks about finding meaningful work, finding purpose in your work, however it is that you think about that. Now, what I found when I've worked with people in this area, we're all unique. We have our own perspective. How much we weight certain things in our life is different than other people. It's also different for us at different times in our lives. Different things are important. But first of all, I think that we need to recognize that for most people, there's three areas that we care about. The first is a longing for significance, a desire to make a positive difference in the world, to be known and ultimately remembered for something meaningful and worthwhile. The second is just the belief that we simply want to make money doing what we love. That's all we want. And what I chuckle about on this one is that that's what we say, is we simply want to make money doing what we love. But you talk to them for, 5 or 10 minutes longer, that's not really what they want. What they really want to do is they want to make a lot of money doing only what they love, as often as they feel like it, with and for the people they want, and experience little worry, stress, frustration, and general hassle in the process. So people that come from this perspective are a little sneaky in how they do it. All I want is to make money doing what I love. The third are people, and again, it's overlapping categories. These aren't mutually exclusive, but they want the secret to earning the money they want while having the time that they need to live the life they truly desire. It's that want, need, and desire thing. And the reality is, I think it's like 96% of Americans admit that a lack of money or lack of time are constraints in their life or their lifestyle. And they want the money they want. They're not necessarily wanting to buy castles and live on islands and all that kind of stuff, but it's the money they want yet while still having the time they need. It's the trade-off of time and money, time and money, time and money. So if we look at that at a more summary level, we care about the impact of our work, enjoyment in our work, and the rewards we receive from our work. Those are really the three areas that we look for. And again, the weight is different in those three categories at different times. Sometimes people are like, nope, don't care about that a bit. Other people, that's not the case. So finding purpose in our life. Now, you may have, those that know me may know me about my superhero coaching program, or Superhero Academy coaching program, or the Superpowers program. This is actually, this segment of it is actually part, or it's a bonus of that program. So start out, fact of life, life is messy. Stuff happens. I love this image where they have a to-do list. They actually write nothing down and both cross it out and check it off. So they show some progress, but the reality is life is messy. Okay, great, let's move on. Let's just get going. Just admit that that's the environment we work in. So let's look at where we got where we are. How do we do that? For most of us, as we said, 96 or 94%, something, I can't remember exactly what the numbers are looking for money. Because money, it's not that we worship money, it's just that money is a medium of exchange in our world. If I want to have the neighbor mow my yard, neighbor boy mow my yard for me, I'll get it out. I don't give him a goat. I don't barter with him. I give him money because that's an easy way for us to exchange value in our society. But we need that combination of money and time. And over time, we tend to emphasize the money side of it. And because we do, we end up with no time. We get so busy. There's that phrase, I'm so busy, I can't think straight, or whatever. That stuff's all true. Physiologically, that's what's going on in our head. But besides that, we're unfulfilled, controlled by others, all these things that if we were to be purposeful or intentional, that wasn't our goal. Our goal wasn't to be controlled by other people who can lay us off at any point in time, or could change our compensation, or ask us to work weekends, or work late, or change what we do, or whatever. That's not what we intended. We go back to those three things we talked about at the beginning. But we quickly say, I didn't do that on purpose. Now, when I was a kid, I was the fourth of four boys with two girls that my parents warmed up on before they had the four boys. And we all delivered morning paper routes. That was the way we made money and contributed. From when I was 8 years old, I delivered papers. And after we delivered the paper routes, we'd play football in the living room on our knees. And now we're not ridiculous, but on our knees, we'd play football, and you scored a touchdown if you dove over the back of the couch. Now, not surprising, four boys playing knee football in the living room didn't work out very well. And yes, we broke a prized family heirloom, which was kind of the only thing our family had of value. But we broke the lamp. But we thought we got off, or our excuse was we didn't do it on purpose. We broke the lamp, but it's not my fault. Probably my brother tackled me out of bounds or whatever, but we broke the lamp. But we didn't do it on purpose. But the question for us in life is, what do we do on purpose? What do we intentionally do? And I'm going to use the term of meaningful work to represent your purpose, your calling, your dream. I understand that those terms are, in fact, at least for some, different. They're a different thing. But for now, we're just going to call them all one thing. It's meaningful work. And it's finding purposeful work, your calling, your dream, whatever it is, we're going to use that terminology the same way. Now, the reality, the most of us end up, this is our strategy, the path of least resistance. What's the easiest thing we can do, or the thing that's right in front of us that's, quote, obvious or whatever. And we end up just going along. If you hear my career, and I don't actually have time, or maybe I will later, but have time to hear my story, but it was the path of least resistance. I came out of college and I had 2 job opportunities, and I took one of those 2. And now I spent my whole last quarter of college looking for work. And, it was just the path of least resistance. And I found myself in corporate management with no intention of being there. It wasn't that I didn't have intention, or I intended not to be there and ended up there. I just had no intention. I just ended up there. And what I know about the path of least resistance, or at least a phrase I like about it, it's like crossing a river. Initially, you're trying to get from one side of the river to the other. You dive in, and if you're swimming or walking, the current starts pulling you. Pretty soon you start dodging obstacles in the river. And we've forgotten that our goal was to get to the other side. And we end up dumped by the river at its lowest point. Wherever that river dumps out, wherever this career path ends up is where I'm going, or whatever. We don't intentionally make decisions to move on. And sadly, we settle for a life that's so much less than we're truly capable of, which is sad and completely unnecessary. There's no reason we have to do that. It's just what happens. So as Zig Ziglar says, we need to stop being a wandering generality. We need to stop telling people that I can do that, or I can do this, or I can do this and this and this, or whatever you want done, I can do, unless you have that extreme short-term need for money, and that certainly makes sense. But become a meaningful specific. Be very specific in what you do, who you help, the kind of work you want to do, and all the work that you don't want to do. That's kind of the first step. But unfortunately for us in life, there's an awful lot of distractions out there. Stuff happens, health issues, family issues, relationship, it's constantly out there. And candidly, if we're not working, we see a lot more of those distractions because we have time to see them. We didn't see them before because we were so busy. So we have to be intentional. Skip talked about taking control. And the reality is we have to be very clear on what we do and what we don't do, what we want to do and what we don't want to do. So how do we find it? Let's talk about the how-tos. Now I'm going to give you 4 different methods. These are candidly behind the scenes. These are based on personality types. So you probably won't resonate with all of these. Hopefully you'll resonate with at least one of them. But if you don't, that doesn't mean you don't have a personality. But so how to you? 4 parts, 4 different methods. You'll see they overlap, work together, but they're based on different personality types without being so blunt in saying that. But this works. This has worked time and time again for people that have put in the effort to identify what's purposeful, what's meaningful for them. The first one, a lot of us have heard about. It's the idea of finding our sweet spot. And that sweet spot is that overlap between what we like to do, what we're good at, what is meaningful work or valuable work. You can do this with different combinations of what the 3 really are, usually like it and good at it. And then the third one is different things. And sometimes they have more circles with it to be more sophisticated or whatever. But the reality is that sweet spot is the spot where obviously all 3 circles overlap. The problem with this is the way it's represented. If you look at it, there's this little tiny piece of all the possibilities out there that's that sweet spot. And candidly, people say, if I got only a 2% chance of finding my sweet spot, I'm not even going to bother. And that's the sad part, because in reality, it looks like this. What we like and what we're good at overlaps a lot. It's not simply this little pure mathematical diagram that's on the left. We like it because we're good at it in many cases. So really it comes down to, once you put in that meaningful piece, there's a much bigger overlap. The sweet spot is much larger. And candidly, for those of you that have gone through my strength-based training and development program called Activating Your Real World Superpowers, you'll have even a larger overlap. And by the way, if you want to go through that, go through the chat or text me or connect with LinkedIn and I'll get you access to that program. but there's a much larger overlap. So what we're still left with the question of identifying what's meaningful to us. Do you want to save the planet? Do you want to save puppies? Do you want to save the whales? Do you want to kill off the whales to save the puppies, or whatever else you want to do? Or you're all about cooking or architecture or whatever it is. We still have the question of meaningful. So here we go. I want to give you some questions that often are ones that I work with my coaching clients on, is how do we figure out what's meaningful to you? And this is one of the slides that you'll want to do a screen capture of, and I'll tell you when we're done. What moves you emotionally? We're we're emotional, psychological creatures. And you want to look for what uplifts you, not what angers you. And you don't want to be, I know there's a lot of people that do it, but you don't want to fight for something. You want to energetically work towards something, but you want it to be a positive thing, not to battle evil, even though all superheroes supposedly protect us from evil. Much more about going from good to great, doing meaningful work, doing positive, meaningful work. What moves you emotionally? Is it animals, architecture, food, art? What is it? Who or what do you care about or even dream about? And if it's people that you care about, how do you help those people? How do you add value in their lives? And who are they and what's important to them? What excites or energizes you? I've worked with a lot of very serious academic professionals. I don't come off the way they do. I joke around a lot. And this is actually, I'm trying to focus a lot on education. I joke around a lot. I'm pretty good at what I do, but I don't take myself very seriously at all. I love jokes. I love humor. I like making relaxed situation. I don't like power and politics and all that stuff. The question for you is, what excites and energizes you? If you're going to be doing it for a lot of your life, quote, all day long, you might as well enjoy it, right? On a separate angle, and you'll see a number of these questions or a number of things we'll talk about will come at the same issue from different perspectives, different angles to help you think about it. And here is, how do you spend your spare time? What do you do when you have free time? Do you recreate? Do you work in self-development? Do you exercise? Do you work on relationships? Are you just, want to get entertained and re-energized? Well, how do you spend your spare time? Because that'll tell you a lot about how you want to spend your time or invest your time. And that helps you come up with what's meaningful to you. Where are you most comfortable or at home, where you feel at home? Now, when I was a kid, I was an athlete to kind of get out of the house. And I was a pretty serious soccer player all the way up through college and actually beyond. When I was a kid, when I walked across the line of a soccer field, I felt like I was stepping out of one world into another, or into a bubble or whatever. It's kind of like in The Wizard of Oz when it goes from black and white to color. For me, I had that feeling when I walked across the line. Another thing in my life is I'm kind of water centric. As a kid, I was a competitive swimmer, did the whole lifeguard, Red Cross. I was a water safety instructor. So everything was about water. And I kind of laugh with my brother-in-law when we go out. He lives in Montana, and we go out and we look at topographical maps when we're going backpacking. He looks for all the peaks, excuse me, because he loves to hike up mountains. I look for all the river valleys because I want to fish. So we use the whole topography map or the whole map, but we just look at totally different things. So the question for you is, where are you most comfortable? Where do you feel at home? When I do a lot of the coaching, consulting, training, a lot of it is in small groups. It's groups of 8 to 12 people, 8 to 15 people, whatever. I don't do, huge public speaking, big, large groups or whatever. For me, it's a small group setting that I really like working in. Also, who do you follow? What are your interests? What kinds of things do you look for? If you're on YouTube, what kind of videos you're watching? It'll tell you about things that's meaningful or important in your life. Finally, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve in your life? And the most important question to find meaningful work, the most important question on all of these is the follow-up question of why. Why does that thing move you? Why do you care about this? Why do you spend your spare time do all those? So after you answer these questions, or some of these questions, or the one or two that resonate with you, ask yourself why. Why is that the case? And by the way, this is the end of the build. So if you want to grab this screen, go ahead and grab it. But that why question really is the foundation to all of these. The second approach, using your powers for good. Now, again, I do a whole thing. This is actually part of a superpowers, activating your real world superpowers, but it's an idea of taking what are your current strengths and leveraging, developing, and positioning them in such a way they feel and perform like real world superpowers. So that's where this comes from. But in that program, our purpose in life, the perspective is that sharing our gifts or our superpowers with the world in a meaningful and valuable way. That's what purpose is. So how do we do that? We break that into pieces and we look at doing how we share those gifts is doing what we want, or in other words, the work that we do with who we want, what team or organization, for who we want, in other words, who's the person we're actually adding value to, that we're actually helping, for what we want, what's the reward that we want, and accomplishing what, the impact. So, I mean, the phrase here is doing what we want, with who we want, for who we want, for what we want, and accomplishing what we want. It's kind of a 4-quadrant thing, but these 4 things, or 5 things with the impact, are the components of the environment or the way we spend our time that is relevant to most people. Sometimes we care more about the work and less about the team. Other times it's like, hey, I just want to be on this team. I just want to work for this organization. Whatever I do, I don't care. And who are we ultimately adding value to? All of these things come back, but it's doing what we want, with who we want, for who we want, for what we want, accomplishing at the end of the day what we want. And I forgot to tell you, this is also where you want to grab a screen capture. So we'll play some music for you now. Okay, we're done with the music now. Hopefully you've gotten it. Now, looking at rewards, 2 pieces. There's the activities that we find rewarding, just simply doing them. We enjoy the experience of doing them. And it's the rewards that we value. What do we want to receive? Do we like recognition, public recognition in front of the whole team to say how great we are, or in front of the huge group of people? Is it a personal attaboy, way to go, good job is enough? Do you want money? Do you want personalized gift? What do you find rewarding? When I work with entrepreneurs in growing their teams, we always talk about understanding what your people care about, how you can reward your people personally and uniquely, and yet still do it fairly. And when you do rewards personally and uniquely, they're remembered 10 times more than if you just give them a gift card or money. Putting in the lowest amount of effort gets you the lowest amount of return as a boss or a leader. Now, understand that it isn't one or the other. For most people, it's a combination of extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. It's the stuff we get, or the things we get, and how we feel about it. So sometimes work is rewarding. I don't get paid to come talk with the Crossroads group, and I wouldn't accept it if they tried to. It's the reward, personally rewarding, of saying, hey, I've been there. They don't have me do my testimony for my job search because it would depress too many people. So, but I've been there, and I just absolutely love what Harry, Skip, and the whole team do at Crossroads. And just being a small part of that team temporarily, I guess they probably wouldn't even let me say that I was on the team, but that's more than reward enough for me. Now, in different activities, I get paid a lot of money. So it's a different, everything's different in how we go about it. And by the way, there isn't any right or wrong approach in this. It's just our approach. It's what's meaningful to us. Every time I work with people, it's so fun running people through different exercises and whatever, because the answers are always different. I do, some kind of the assessments and whatever, and the answers are always different. The conversations are always different, even though I've had hundreds of them. Third approach, third idea. Excuse me, my voice is having trouble, and I don't know how to hit the mute button. So I guess you're going to hear me try to clear my voice. So number 3, making a statement. And here is the statement, and it's long, it's intentionally long. And this is a page too, and a couple of clicks. So you're going to want to capture this one too. And the statement is, and the idea of this is, the thought of this is, you're kind of bragging yourself up at the local, neighborhood night out or whatever kind of social events or whatever. And it's the statement that you're making to somebody else about the work that you do. And you're having an absolute riot working with a fabulous group of people in an amazing environment. And I'm sure you can all read this, obviously, but doing the most interesting, most important, not to mention the most personally and financially rewarding work of your life. Would you like to be able to make a statement like that? Now, those may not be the specific areas that you care about. Maybe you care about having an amazing boss or amazing manager or leader that you work for. Maybe you talk more about who you're helping or how you help them or the difference that you're making. But if you would like to make a statement like that about the work that you do, paint the picture. Now, what I mean by that is it's basically a 2-step process. First of all, you come up with the statement that you want to make. And this is designed intentionally. Usually people care about the people they work with, the environment they work in, the type of work they do, and what they get back. You're going to hear that theme over. You've already heard that theme over and over and over again. But the question is, for you, what would you want the statement to say? If you could get exactly what you wanted, what would your statement say? And then once you get that statement figured out, the one that you'd like to not necessarily shout from the top of the mountain, but maybe look in the mirror and say, then you simply define what that means for you. And what I mean by that is, let's break this down into pieces. A fabulous group of people. Okay, what's a fabulous group of people for you? Are they super smart? Are they super serious? Are they super funny? Are they comfortable, caring? Who are they? How big a group are they? Do you work with a small team? Do you work with a mid-sized business? Do you work for an international corporation or an international nonprofit, a government agency, an education? What's a fabulous group of people for you? And then what's an amazing environment? Now, sometimes that's culture. Sometimes that's the physical environment. My brother is a guy who works outside all the time. He loves working outside. He couldn't imagine actually having to come in and sit in an office and sit down at a desk. He's in the back of a pickup truck or in the front seat of a pickup truck or out, he loves being outdoors. So everybody's definition of environments is different. What's interesting to you? We've already talked about some of that. What's important? What's meaningful? All this kind of stuff. Just simply, now some people care about financial rewards. Some people are at a stage in their life who are like, oh, no, just gotta put in some time. I'm not dead yet. Let's get some work done. Whatever the statement is, you simply go through and describe what that means. Now, yes, you get to you have a sentence that's like a paragraph long. And then you simply go through the process of refining it down until it's a very clear statement of what you want to do. And you would be shocked how powerful this is. Once you get the statement that's a declaration of what you want to do, then you have an absolute, I was transitioning it. You have a clear picture. I'm going to try to jump back. Sorry. Because this is, if you haven't taken the snapshot of this and want it, here's your opportunity to grab the screenshot for it. And I hope that made sense. The process of doing that is simply come up with a statement that's what you want to be able to say about your work, and then define what each of those segments is, and then kind of do the word replacement thing. And then once you have that really long statement, because you described a fabulous group of people in 25 words instead of 4, whittle it down and focus on what's really important to you. And the reason is that gives you a very clear picture of what you're looking for. And when we don't have a clear picture of what we're looking for, it's very easy to convince ourselves that what somebody is offering us is actually what we want to do. And very rarely is that the case. It's actually the other way around. We get so clear on what we do that we tell people looking to hire us that that's what we want to do, and they make that happen. They go, this person is so clear. I mean, it's like the idea of, looking for, the classic thing is, you're looking for a needle in a haystack, or we're the needle in the haystack. And people say, trying to find a needle in a haystack isn't that hard. If you decide you're going to find it, you burn the hay and get a magnet to find the needle. You use the characteristics of the environment to your advantage, or intentionally. It's very easy to find a needle in a haystack. Oh, I guess it depends upon how big the haystack is, but the concept is very easy. It's you figure out what's physically different about a needle in hay and use that to your advantage. Same thing here. You get very clear on what you do, you stand out in the crowd. It's the idea of, I love actually Cat Breit's statement about changing your stripes or being a different colored zebra in a zebra herd. Zebras are designed to be hidden, but if you're purple and white instead of black and white, you stand out really, really clearly. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to help you identify very clearly what you want to do. The fourth step is simply look and go, how do you want to spend your time? When do you want to get up? What do you want to do? I joke now because I'm going to be done with this presentation before I usually wake up. I usually get up about 9:30 now. Why? Because that's when my body actually wakes up. So, but how do you want to spend your days? Do you want to be out and about visiting clients? Do you even want to be out? Like my brother loves to be outdoors in the weather. Yes, it gets hot in Minnesota. Yes, it's cold in Minnesota. He understands clothing. We kind of are okay with changes in weather. Again, you want to be focused working on technology. You want to be on your laptop. I spend a lot of time building slides. I used to do slides that were corporate, little bullet points with branded backgrounds. Found out that wasn't very good. So, if you're going to, how do you want to spend your day? When do you want to wake up? Who do you want to work with? Do you want to be under deadlines and timelines? I've adjusted my career probably 15 years ago. So because I don't work well under urgent timelines. I want to do hopefully quality work, not quantity of work. So I've set myself up that way. Sometimes I'm up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning working on things because that's when it moves me. If I don't feel like it's going to be productive, I don't waste my time. I go do something else. How do you want to spend your day? Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to help? What do you want to be doing? Because you're going to do it month after month, year after year. The reality is we're going to have a job. We're going to do work, or if you own your own business, whatever, you're going to do work. Our goal, in society is to add value to society. We're not just supposed to recreate and, enjoy life. We're supposed to be a meaningful, contributing person. What is that? What do you want to achieve? Or create? Who do you want to help? If you want to grab this slide, this is the end of this one as well. So that's the fourth. Just simply look at your daily activities. What it is that you want to do. Because I believe we all deserve to get that standing ovation, to have the feeling of the contestant on America's Got Talent or American Idol or whatever kind of show. Get that feeling, that rave reviews, the incredible recognition. But first, we've got to be discovered, right? but it's not discovered by the judges, isn't the first step. We have to discover ourselves. We actually have to understand ourselves, what we care about, what's meaningful work for us before we can tell other people. Because if not, we're going to be handed 3 options and we're going to convince ourselves that one of the 3 random options out there that people are offering to us is the one we want. And we usually end up back where we talked about that we needed the money, we don't have enough time to live the life we want to live, and we feel stuck. So identifying our life's purpose is really about one of these 4 things, or attempting to do those 4 different exercises. What will naturally happen if you do that is called convergence, or I call it convergence, is you keep writing the same thing over and over and over again. I care about working with business people, not nonprofits, or I like to work in religious organizations, not educational, or whatever. And I want to work one-on-one with people versus managing a group, or vice versa, whatever it is. And you start seeing that over and over and over again. And when you come at the question from these different answers, what's meaningful work to us, you come from different angles, you start going, oh, okay, seems like I like to work with kids more than grownups, because grownups act more like kids, or whatever it is. So yeah, and really it's the point. Ultimately, people say, stop giving me more exercises because I know the answer, is really what it comes down to. A couple tips that I want to give you about meaningful work. And again, this is through coaching. Actually, the example I use here is somebody I met through Crossroads, if I remember right. He was an accountant who was in job transition. And, we chatted a couple different times, and he finally admitted what his purpose was, what was meaningful work for him. Now, he was an accountant and said, Dale, I'm going to get another accounting job. And I'm good at it, pays the bills, all that kind of stuff. But he said, what I really want to do is start an outdoor program for inner city kids. And he said, specifically, what I really want to do is create an outdoor archery experience for these kids. He said, but I have no idea how to do it. Now, I had to chuckle because, of course, he didn't know it, but as a kid growing up, my dad owned an archery range. He was, I think, honestly, one of the first people that created what was called the outdoor range. No, that's not what he called it. He called it something else. But it was targets set out throughout the wilderness, a field course. That's what he called it. It's a field course. And I knew exactly how he could put that program together. So I know the managers of the archery department at this sporting goods store. They love to donate equipment. Plus, for them, it's the idea of getting people into archery is certainly a good thing for their business. And he got his accounting job, and he set up the program for these inner city kids on how to, learn about nature through archery. He didn't make money doing it, but that was the meaningful work that he did. He was an accountant during the day, so he could do the work he wanted to do that was meaningful to him, that was making that difference in the lives of kids he wouldn't be able to help otherwise. The second thing is there's an awful lot of talk out there about our life purpose. And, you've got to find the one thing that's meaningful for you. And I found for so many people, that's just not how it plays out. Our life story has many chapters, as the tip says here. Each one may have their own purpose. I went through a point in my business career. I kind of did that. I went up through probably slower than most, but I went up through the corporate management ladder thing. Again, as I mentioned earlier, not intentionally. I didn't have any plan to climb the ladder or to plan to be in whatever industry I was. And at one point, I was at a position where I had responsible for the performance of 1,200 people. And, I thought I was making great contribution and whatever. And they laid me off. And And there was all this politics involved, which I was trying to actually get away from anyway. So again, the classic example of the layoff was the best thing that ever happened to me. But long story short, I transitioned into doing team performance coaching. And over an 8-year period of time, I was hired to improve the performance with over 1 million people, 1.2 million people. Was invited in by name to over 50 Fortune 500 companies. Now, most people, and I like it this way, have no idea who I am, and I'm fine with that. But the people that were focused on this at an 8-year run where I was working with a lot of, I think I said over 50 Fortune 500, 10% of the Fortune 500 companies run a business performance system that I helped build or implement. And many of those companies are ones that I can't even talk about. The non-disclosures are so tight, I can't even tell you I work there. And now I'm done with that. I'm in a different chapter of my life working with entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs that basically have a desire to, a lot of them are in the wedding industry, have a desire to help and add value, but have no business coaching, no business training whatsoever. Completely different market, different group of people. It's a different chapter in my life. In that world, my daughter, who owns one of the largest wedding planning businesses in North America, my daughter and I work together. The goal for me is to help her grow that business, learn coaching to the point where she can take it over when I finally give up and retire full time. We have different chapters in our story, and we don't have to find the purpose for our life as much as we need to find the purpose, if we care about purpose, find a purpose for this chapter of our story. The third, and by the way, I work with a secular audience, so I don't tend to talk about God as much as I otherwise would, but the third pro tip, I'm a professional public, actually I'm not I don't know. I don't believe we're given abilities that we're not intended to use. If it's God or if it's nature, they're both very efficient. God would not give us abilities we weren't supposed to use. So we can go back to, and again, that whole Superpowers training program, that strength-based training program. If you care about it, let me know. I'll get you free access to it. It's a 5.5-hour course. But will help you identify not just your personality, which things like Strength Finder or Clifton Strengths or Enneagrams or any of those personality assessments. That's your personality. That's your style. That's not your talents. That's not your abilities, your capabilities, the things you can do. But we have abilities to do things that most people don't appreciate, because if we're good at it, we assume everybody's good at it, and we understand what we're bad at because that's emotionally stressful. So we focus on what we're bad at rather than what we're good at. Doesn't work very well. But the thing is to understand what our giftedness is, what our abilities are, and then use those, because we've been given those for a reason. God put us in this place. God gave us this ability because we're supposed to do something. If we have an ability that you're not using, or a desire or a talent, whatever you want to call it, and you're not using it, think about that, because you probably should be. I don't think nature or God gives us something we were never intended to use. It just doesn't make any sense. The fourth thing is around purpose, and that I get it, but there's a constant challenge of, what do people really want? They want work that's really easy to do. Well, it's easy because you're good at it. It kind of goes back to we like it because it's easy and we're good at it. We need to keep getting better. Keep getting better and better and better at the thing that's most valuable, most important to you. I'll tell you the kind of the catchphrase that I have in my performance training, regardless of organizational size, if it's 150,000 employees in multiple countries, or it's a one-person entrepreneur, is play to your greatest strengths in the most valuable way the vast majority of the time. Now, it's a very simple statement. Almost nobody does it. And part of that is not only playing to your greatest strengths, but growing your greatest strengths. Get better and better and better at the things that you're really good at, and then work to position it so that it adds value to other people, because you will be rewarded for adding that value. But most people don't find their purpose only because they never take action to find it. They simply think, you go back to that finding your sweet spot where it looks like you got a 2% chance of finding that perfect overlap, so why even bother? People don't even try to find purposeful work, meaningful work, their calling, whatever. And you're at the best time right now to do that, because the best time in a people's life is always right now, regardless of where you are in your journey. So take the time you need to work through those exercises, but then more important, go find it. When you start getting clear about what's important to you, I've coached a lot of people, go find the person you want to work for and focus on that. Don't look for the company or the work. Who is your leader, who is your boss, manager, whatever you want to think of them as, if that's a super important relationship to you, which actually it is for a lot of people, then go find that person and then figure out what work you can do that adds value to them so they'll let you work there. Or if it's a particular company or whatever it is, go do what you naturally know to do once you know what it is that you're actually looking for. And here's my wrap-up screen, and I realize I have no idea what time it is because I'm so terrible with time. Okay, I think we're done here. I don't know, Skip, because I have such a great job. My stuff is structured so well, all of a sudden just ends. Skip, I don't know if we have any questions in the chat or what I'm supposed to actually do here. So I'm going to stop sharing and come back to the world.
Just a number of comments about people really enjoying the message from Mary Jo Flan. Just wanted to say hello and love the inspiration. Like to reconnect. It's positive comments, but I'm not seeing any questions. So awesome from Chantel. How do we get connected to the Superpower training?
The easiest way, now the only social media platform I'm on anymore is LinkedIn. And so if you want to reach out to connect with me on LinkedIn, please reference Minnesota Crossroads or this presentation or whatever. And I'll need to get your email address, and then we can communicate back and forth, and I'll get you access to that program for free. I actually have to grant you access to that, but we can talk through all that.
Well, that's very generous. That's very nice, Dale. So I'm sure that answers Chantel's question. Thank you, she says. So she's all ready to go.
But you will need to take action.
Thank you so much.
Oops, sorry. You will have to take action to reach out to me to get access to that. So you will have to do that.
All right. Yeah. So anybody that's listening that is interested in free training, my goodness, and it's a great program. The Superpower program, just find Dale on LinkedIn, reach out to him. He will need your email and he will grant you access. So that's very, very generous. But just a lot of thanks. Really appreciate it from Alan Campbell. Hello, Alan. Good to see you this morning. But lots of great comments. As usual, Dale, you have wowed the crowds. I can hear them chanting even.
No, you can't, because they muted everybody. They won't let them talk.
They're chanting so enthusiastically. I can hear it coming through even when they're muted.
The thing that drives me crazy when I do these is not getting feedback during it, because I'm so used to the banter back and forth. So.
Oh, sure. No, I know what you mean.
It's so hard for me. You don't even know.
Well, I feel your pain, and you powered through one way or another.
And this is where you mute me, right?
But well, you said that you like jokes and stuff, and so I found one that I thought you particularly might like, Dale. Where are average things manufactured?
I do not know. Where?
In the satisfactory.
Ooh. I like it.
Oh, I can hear the groans, actually.
Yeah.
Lori Levinson said, wonderful and timely presentation. Thank you so much, Dale.
You are very welcome.
So Cindy Wald said, can you put contact information into the chat? Is there any contact information you want to share in chat, Dale?
No.
Okay. Best
Seriously,
to
though.
connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, connect me on LinkedIn that's the one thing I still use that platform for. I'm retiring or semi-retiring or whatever, and I use LinkedIn for the Crossroads connections. So if people don't mind, it's a guy that looks kind of like this, named Dale Henry. And if you can't remember my name, I think they can go out to the Crossroads YouTube channel and find this presentation. If you can't find that, you probably don't really care enough to get it anyway. So.
No,
the first time you've ever had somebody say, no, I won't put contact information into a chat.
Well, but you've always done things your own unique way, Dan.
No, leave me alone.
That's all right. That's all right. So other than the thank yous and stuff, I'm not seeing any questions or anything coming up. So again, I will offer my thank you, Dale. You always offer a great message every time you come, and we so appreciate that.
Take care, everybody.
Always great value, and I know everybody benefited significantly from hearing your message. So thank you again. We appreciate your time and hope to see you again.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Dale. So as I mentioned, we have got incredible resources for you through Minnesota Crossroads. So let me share with you many of the things that can be a huge help for you in your job transition. I know when I went through my own job transition, I had never been through job transition. I didn't really look for a job. I had started my own company out of college and ran it for close to 30 years. And so I had no idea what to do to look for a job. And the information and resources I found at Minnesota Crossroads were absolutely invaluable. And so there's tons of stuff. Obviously, presentations like Dale's. We've got workshops the first, second, and third Thursday of every month, different topics and stuff. So make sure that you tune in for that. But basically, there's three places that Minnesota Crossroads is offered when we're in person, which hopefully will be starting again here in the not so distant future. We're at three locations. The main one is at Grace Church in Eden Prairie, but also Woodbury Lutheran and North Heights Lutheran in Arden Hills. And so you can go on to mncrossroads.com for more details. And that is really the main source of information, mncrossroads.com, because there's tons of stuff on there, not only information, but ongoing events that we have and resources and jobs. There are jobs posted on there all the time. And so it should be something that you're checking with some frequency to see if a job pops up that you might be interested in. So mncrossroads.com, critical. And there's ongoing weekly opportunities. Networking with Grace is a networking group to help get connected with targeted companies and all that. It happens right after this event, starting at 9 o'clock. You sign up for it the same way you signed up for this event. And it's really nice. So you put some basic contact information, you get a roster of everybody that attends. So it really facilitates networking and such with those others folks in attendance. Wes Roper and Wes Tang run that group and do a phenomenal job. I think it's one of the best networking groups in the Twin Cities for folks in job transition. So that's every Thursday between 9 and 11. We also have one-on-one coaching available online, and that's available at any time. There's a group of us. I'm one. Harry, who runs this whole group, is one. There's a number of volunteers from a vast array of different backgrounds and types of careers and all that. that are here to help you one-on-one. So if you want to talk about a specific career area or get advice on a career choice, or have somebody look over your resume, or do a mock interview, or whatever you want, the one-on-one coaches are available to do that. And all you have to do is reach out and ask. And lastly, I'll mention that we're big believers in prayer. God is in control of your job search, as I referenced earlier on. We take it one day at a time, but God is in control. It's in His time. And so if you would like prayer for your journey, if you're struggling down, or if you have an interview coming up there, or something that you'd like prayer for, whatever it might be, reach out. There are people praying for you anyway, whether you ask for it or not. They're praying over you. But if you have a specific request, certainly ask for it, and we'll be happy to pray for you in that regard. We also have online classes. There's an 8-week class that is wonderful, and you can see it. It goes over literally any aspect of job transition. This was so helpful because, again, I had never looked for a job, so I had no clue what to do or what to look for. Clueless, that was me. And it breaks down literally every element of job transition and gives you guidance and help in how to most efficiently and effectively go through that area. So incredibly helpful. And they're beginning every month. So reach out anytime. We'll get you plugged into one of the next groups, and you'll be better for it. As has also been mentioned, we've got a LinkedIn group. Make sure you connect with MN Crossroads Career Network. Fantastic resource to network with other people in job transition. A lot of our alumni are connected to that. So it's a way for them to give back to you. So you can say, hey, I'm looking for contacts at Target or whatever. And there's people that can potentially connect with you there. Good information, great resource. And as has been referenced, this is phenomenal. We've got a YouTube channel. And so the presentations like Dale's and most of the other presentations that have been done in the last few years are on the YouTube channel. And it is a treasure chest of information, fantastic speakers, different topics, authors, a lot of great information. And so you can go through and kind of scroll around for looking for different topics or speakers that are of particular interest to you, and watch them whenever you want. Fun Friday night, get some popcorn, curl up and watch MN Crossroads YouTube. Maybe not, but a great resource nonetheless. And we have lots of other resources. I'm really proud that my company, 𝙬𝙞𝙪𝙧 Financial, has had a long history of working with and supporting the Crossroads, Minnesota Crossroads Ministry. Harry just does amazing things with what he has organized and the team does, and it is our privilege to be part of that. And one of the things that I was asked to do is put together some workshops to help folks in job transition, and they occur the first, second, and third Tuesday of the month. Again, you sign up for it on the same site that you signed up for this. And we have different topics, everything from financial issues during job transition to reviewing the market, which has been crazy, but kind of going through kind of what we see happening in the market moving forward, and even retirement issues and ways to take steps to secure your retirement. So if that's something of interest, reach out, and we'd love to have you at one of those workshops. They're also virtual. I mentioned the volunteers. There is a ton of volunteers and an amazing team that Harry has put together. And again, we all come from different backgrounds, different career paths, and a lot of really great resource just to chat and get perspective. So don't hesitate to reach out. We are all here to help you. Again, the three churches that we're connected to, these are the sites for them. And so if you don't have a church home, any one of the three would love to welcome you. They both have options for in-person and streaming services. And, so I found certainly in my job search, again, a lot of the things, it's God's plan, not ours. And I needed to turn to God because there were times it was frustrating and uncertain as to what was going on. And having some type of a connection of people of faith that you can turn to, I found to be incredibly helpful. So that might be for you also. So the last thing I'll mention is a really cool thing. This I referenced and used in my remarks earlier, but it's a book called How Long, O Lord, How Long, written by Dale Kreinkamp, and it's really devotions and things for specifically people in job transition. And as long as we have your information, you get a free copy of it, and we will happily send it to you. So that's just another free bonus from your connection here with Minnesota Crossroads. But I hope you found it helpful, took something away today that will help you in your job search. We are here for you. We are praying for you and wish you nothing but the best. Enjoy this gorgeous Minnesota weather that we put up with winter for. So enjoy that. Blessings in your job search, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.